Okay, so today we are talking about coffee houses. What was the first coffee house? Is it anything like the coffee houses today? Your favorite coffee shop? You better stay tuned to find out because I think the answer might surprise you. Well, I have got a great story for you. We are talking about where was the first coffee house? Yeah, have you ever given it any thought? You have your favorite, you love to go there. It's always good. You can count on it. But where did they begin? What happened? Well, I'm going to just tell you. Okay, so this started a long time ago. We've been drinking coffee on the Arabian Peninsula for a long time. And this is early, before 1500. There were somewhat coffee stalls, maybe we could call them, throughout the Arabian Peninsula. And in Mecca, they had just sort of like little coffee stalls where someone could make coffee and you could get it and sort of take it away, sort of like a little to-go type places. But people would kind of congregate because it was somewhere to go and they liked the coffee and they could chat and meet, and so all was going okay. But if you've watched my other videos about coffee, please, we'll put a link to the history. You'll know that coffee is a Muslim creation, native to Ethiopia, but really found its way to Yemen and through the Sufis, a Muslim sect, the whirling dervishes. They are responsible for getting coffee around the world throughout the Arabian Peninsula and then further. So we're in Mecca and it's the year 1511. Okay, so coffee, everybody's drinking it. They're going to these little coffee stalls and sort of hanging around drinking coffee, and people aren't liking it. There's a guy in charge, Karir al-Beg, and he is not feeling it. He's kind of a tough guy. He just, doesn't really want anybody else having fun. And what are they really talking about? And what could happen? And coffee's probably not good for you. And I'm not quite sure that it's really within our Muslim laws and our religion that you should really be drinking coffee because it can kind of change your mind, your altered state a little bit. And he just didn't like it. He just wasn't a happy camper. And so what does he do? He puts coffee on trial. Yeah, okay. So these little coffee stalls, really super early coffee houses, this guy, he has a trial, and sitting in the court on trial is a bag of coffee beans. No kidding. And he brings in two brothers. There are two physicians, and these physicians say, coffee's terrible for your health. And he brings in a couple other people, and they say, well, I think it's against our laws because it could maybe alter your mind. We don't understand its caffeine for a lot longer, centuries later. So it happens, but the muftis, the religious people, they said, I don't think so. This coffee's fine. This trial's crazy. What are you doing? What are you doing? So it goes to trial anyway, and guess what? This Karir al-Beg, he wins, and coffee is outlawed. Coffee is forbidden, and it's coffee. These little coffee stalls are closed, and anybody caught drinking coffee, terrible things happen to you, and it's all bad. And they have to. So Karir al-Beg, he's like, oh, I'm big guy. I did this. I got coffee outlawed, aren't I? Something else, and I've got to send word to that big boss, the Sultan in Cairo. And so the Sultan in Cairo, the big boss, he loves coffee, and he's drinking coffee like crazy. And he gets word of this trial going on in Mecca, and he said, and in all the books it says he's probably in the middle of a cup of coffee when he receives this word that they've outlawed it in Mecca. And he said, are you out of your minds? Stop that. Coffee's fine. And so then a year later, this Karir al-Beg, putting a bag of coffee on trial. Guess what? He loses his job. And guess what happened to those two brothers? About 5 years later, they moved to Cairo, and you know what happened to them? Supposedly had nothing to do with this coffee trial. They were were killed the traditional way at the time, cut in two at the waist. Yikes. Okay, that's how serious we took coffee. Okay, so now we're going forward, and the Ottomans, they are traveling as well. The Sufis are traveling, and coffee gets to Constantinople. Okay, modern day Istanbul. And you know all about Turkish coffee. I've made a video about it. We love coffee in Turkey. We love it. The Turkish coffee is magnificent. It's a little different because they don't filter the coffee. It's fantastic. So it's the year 1555, and the first real coffee house, what we're thinking, opens in Istanbul. And there are three types of coffee houses. Okay, so we have the stall, like we had in Mecca, that this guy, Karir Beg, was trying to get outlawed. He did for a little bit. Okay, just sort of somebody's making coffee, you get one and you could take it away. But they were always in little porcelain cups, of course, and you'd bring your cup back, or you brought your own. You had your own to-go cup, like we do today, I guess, you know. So coffee stalls, just takeaway, and then there were coffee shops. And a coffee shop was a very small place, and you could either take the coffee away, or they had little benches inside, or they had little stools outside, and you could sit and converse and meet and talk with other people. Or they had coffee houses. Now, coffee houses were the big, full-blown, elaborate thing. They were in the poshest neighborhoods, and they were just beautiful. They said the most beautiful coffee houses were near the banks of the Bosphorus, and with beautiful gardens all around. And you could go inside, and they had beautiful, big, soft seating. Okay, Starbucks, nothing new here. And you would go in there, and then you would be entertained. They could have singers could come in. And let me just tell you that for centuries, women were not allowed in coffee stalls, coffee houses, or coffee shops. No women were allowed, but women were able to drink coffee at home, and they loved it. And they had all these rituals of coffee, beautiful rituals. They even had servants that did nothing but coffee, and you could have tons of it. It was a whole hierarchy. It's a whole video, truly. If you'd like that one, let me know. And so, but the women, coffee was so important, even though they couldn't go to a coffee house. The women in Cairo, it was written into the marriage contract that if the woman was not supplied with enough coffee, that was grounds, no pun intended, for divorce. Yeah. So back to the coffee house. The coffee house, the elaborate thing with the soft seating and music, and women could come and sing in a coffee house, but they were behind a screen. You could not see them, but you could hear them. And they became sort of where the cultured people would go and congregate, and they would play chess and exchange ideas, and it was wonderful. But then the coffee houses, we also, remember, we had coffee shops, and everyone could go to coffee shops. So everybody could go to these coffee houses, coffee shops, coffee stalls, if you will. All positions in life, from the richest to the poorest. Now, they might not have been at the same coffee houses together, but they could go to any of them, the men, of course. And so many neat things came out of this. That why did they go to the coffee houses? Well, there were no restaurants in that time. So it wasn't like you went out to, your favorite restaurant on Saturday night. No, they didn't exist. But people still wanted to get out of the house, right? So where did you go? You went to the coffee house. And you would go, and it was a place to meet, exchange ideas, all kinds of wonderful things. The history of coffee houses and revolutions were planned in coffee houses, like the French Revolution and the American Revolution. You wouldn't believe all the cool things that have happened in coffee houses. George Washington was inaugurated in one in New York. So coffee houses have a whole history, and if you would like that, drop me a comment, because we'll do the whole history of coffee houses. But today we're just talking about these early, the first ones in Constantinople. And there was even hierarchy. There was etiquette in the coffee houses. The etiquette was, if an elderly person came in, everyone to this day, it's big part of the Turkish culture, respecting your elders. So if an elder walked into a coffee shop, everyone stood. You stood, and you would offer the best seat to the eldest person. And another thing, in British pubs, buying rounds, you'd buy a round for everyone. That started in this coffee house. Yeah, in the coffee houses, if someone came in and they were about to pay for their coffee, someone would yell out, "Kaba!" And that meant gratis. That meant, I'm going to pay for his coffee, and I'll pay for everybody. And then the person who was receiving this coffee, he would go around, and it was the etiquette to greet each person in the coffee house individually. And then you would take turns buying rounds for everyone. And that's where buying a round, you think of the English pubs, that sort of, they think, started there. But now it started in the coffee houses with all this etiquette. And so many things happened there, and it really became a third place. And there's an American named Ray Oldenburg. He's a professor in Florida, and he coined this term, the third place. It's not home, it's not work. It's this third place you go to congregate, to meet, to be with other people, to socialize, to discuss things, to learn. And, throughout history, the coffee houses, they sort of even specialized. Lawyers would hang out one, different trades would hang out at others, and they could all meet and exchange ideas. And it's just such a cool story. And coffee then, after 1555, it was in and out of favor. There were a few more big bumps in coffee's history, and coffee houses were outlawed again in the early about 1630s, and coffee houses were closed down again, and terrible things happened to people caught drinking coffee. And finally, by the end of the century, people said, listen, enough's enough. It's okay for a Muslim to drink coffee. We don't think it's going to kill us. The doctors have agreed it's okay. And, well, that changes up and down. And it's just such a cool history. But suffice it to say, the earliest coffee houses, are they just not like the coffee house you go to? Nice, soft seating. You go to hang out, meet other people, converse, or just sit by yourself and enjoy a cup of coffee. I know. So pretty cool. Next time you're at your favorite coffee house, take your earbuds out for a minute, look around. Maybe you could strike up a conversation. That's what they did in the early days. They didn't have any earbuds, and great things came out of them. So cheers to you. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you want to know more, drop me a comment, because I'd love to tell you. So, enough about coffee houses. Thanks. And as I always say, please be kind. Thank you.